Something inside you is stirring. Maybe it's a quiet whisper, maybe it's a relentless pull that you can no longer ignore. That pull is your divine power calling you home, back to your truth, your purpose, your light. For far too long, you may have walked through this world, carrying the weight of who others told you to be, masking your essence to fit into boxes you never belonged in. But the time has come to shed those layers. The time has come to awaken your divine power within. This awakening is not a thunderous event. It's a sacred remembering, a rising, a return. As you begin this journey, we invite you to stay with us until the end of this video. What you are about to hear may resonate deeply, unlocking doorways you forgot existed. And if you feel it in your soul, we ask you to write your warmest wishes in the comments, along with the number 77. It's not just a number, it's a vibration, a frequency that symbolizes the awakening of your higher self and the fulfillment of divine desires. This is the moment to let the universe feel your energy, to say, "I am ready," and send a wave of intention through your words that echoes into reality. You were never meant to live small. You were born with something inside you that glows in the dark, a brilliance that was never meant to be dimmed by fear, doubt, or circumstance. The divine spark within you has always been there, even in the moments when you felt most lost. Especially then, because your power doesn't disappear, it waits. And now, you are ready to remember. Not because someone told you to, but because something inside you finally said, "Enough. Enough pretending. Enough shrinking. Enough waiting for permission to be whole." Your divine power is not about domination or superiority. It's not about proving anything to the world. It is the quiet, unwavering presence of truth. It is alignment with your soul's path. It is the inner knowing that you are here for more, not more achievements, but more depth, more clarity, more connection. When you awaken this power, you begin to walk differently. You begin to speak differently. Your presence becomes magnetic, not because you try, but because truth has a frequency that cannot be faked. This power is already inside you. It always has been. But to access it, you must begin peeling away the illusions you've collected over time. The beliefs that told you you're not enough. The patterns that said you had to earn love, worth, or belonging. The fears that convinced you to play safe when your soul wanted to soar. Awakening is not the addition of something new. It's the removal of everything that isn't you. And what's left, what remains when you strip away the noise, is your divine essence. Pure, timeless, unshakable. Maybe life broke you open to lead you here. Maybe you've experienced loss, rejection, or disappointment, not as punishment, but as purification. The universe doesn't waste pain. Every time you've been cracked wide open, it was a chance to let more light in. And now, that light is gathering. It's rising through your spine, igniting every part of you that once felt numb. Your voice, your vision, your purpose, they are all returning. Not from somewhere far away, but from deep within. You don't need to chase power. You are the power. Every breath you take, every truth you speak, every time you honor your intuition, you reclaim what was never really lost. The divine within you has been patient, watching as you stumbled, learned, and grew. And now it's ready to lead. You're not here to copy someone else's path. You are here to carve your own. To walk with sacred confidence, not because you have all the answers, but because you trust yourself to rise when it matters. Awakening your divine power means stepping into the present with full awareness. No more waiting for the perfect time. No more telling yourself you're not ready. The truth is, the readiness comes in the doing. It reveals itself when you move. And as you move, the path unfolds. You are not walking blindly. You are walking divinely, guided by something greater than logic, pulled by something deeper than ambition. Your soul already knows the way. Your mind just needs to get quiet enough to listen. And everything that you've been through, the chaos, the silence, the uncertainty, has shaped your vessel. You are strong not in spite of your wounds, but because of them. Your scars are sacred. They are proof that you survived, evolved, and chose to keep going. And in that choice, you planted seeds. Now those seeds are ready to bloom. But blooming takes light, it takes courage, and it takes a commitment to stop watering what doesn't serve you anymore. You can feel it, can't you? The shift, the inner quake, the sacred discomfort that tells you something is about to change. Don't run from it. Lean in. Let it burn away the illusions. Let it remind you that you are more than your past, more than your fears, more than the version of yourself that settled for half-truths. You are an embodiment of divine energy, a force of nature wrapped in human skin. And when you truly remember that, nothing can stop you. This is not about becoming someone new. It's about becoming who you've always been, beneath the noise, beneath the conditioning, beneath the fear. And once you taste that truth, once you feel your own power flowing through your veins, you'll never settle again. You'll walk away from anything that no longer honors your soul, not because it's easy, but because your spirit will demand it. You will become unshakable, not cold but clear, not hardened but holy. This is your time. You didn't arrive here by accident. You were called, prepared, initiated through every experience, every heartbreak, every moment of stillness, and every burst of fire. And now, here you are, standing at the edge of your becoming. Don't look back. Don't doubt. Just breathe. Open your heart and say yes. Say yes to the light that's rising within you. Say yes to the version of yourself that's been waiting to be lived. Say yes to the divine power that was always yours. There is a sacred rhythm to your life, one that cannot be dictated by external forces. It is the rhythm of your soul, the beat of your true self. And when you begin to align with it, life starts to unfold in ways you never imagined. The people, the opportunities, the signs, they all begin to show up, not by coincidence, but by divine synchronicity. That's what happens when you awaken to your power. You no longer chase, you attract. You no longer strive, you align. And in that alignment, miracles become natural. NBUT, make no mistake, awakening is not without resistance. The moment you start claiming your truth, everything built on falsehood will tremble. Your old identity will cling to comfort. People around you may not understand the shift. Some may fall away. Others may challenge you. This is normal. This is growth. As you rise, everything that was never truly aligned with you will be revealed. And though it may feel like loss, it is actually sacred space clearing for what is meant to arrive. NTHE discomfort is not punishment, it's transformation. You are not breaking down, you are breaking open. And within that opening lies access to everything you've been seeking. Your divine power does not come from perfection. It comes from authenticity. The more honest you are with yourself, the more you choose truth over appearances, intuition over logic, love over fear, the more you ignite that power. It doesn't have to be loud, it just has to be real. This is a journey of reclaiming your energy, your time, your voice. How much of your life has been spent giving pieces of yourself away to people or roles that never saw your fullness? Now is the time to call that energy back. You don't have to explain your healing. You don't need approval to transform. This is your evolution, and you have every right to honor it without apology. In fact, your unapologetic authenticity is part of your medicine. And as you awaken, you'll notice something powerful happening. Your energy speaks before you do. Your presence begins to shift rooms. Your silence begins to hold more weight than your words. Why? Because when you're in alignment with your divine power, people don't just see you, they feel you. You don't need to convince or perform, you just need to embody. And that embodiment becomes a beacon, a light that silently calls others home to themselves too. NTHAT is the beautiful paradox of awakening. When you rise for yourself, you uplift others without even trying. Your transformation becomes permission for others to transform. Your healing echoes outward. And while your path is personal, its impact is collective. You may never see all the ripples you create, but they are real. Every time you choose integrity, love, and expansion, you help raise the vibration of this entire planet. And still, there will be days when you forget. Days when the weight of the past pulls you under. Days when you question your path, your worth, your vision. On those days, come back to your breath. Come back to the stillness inside you. Your divine power isn't something you lose. It's something you reconnect with. It's always there, even when you can't feel it. Especially when you can't feel it. Because the darkness isn't your enemy. It's your invitation to remember the light you carry. And healing is not a linear path. You will spiral. You will revisit old wounds with new wisdom. But with each return, you become stronger, clearer, softer, and fiercer all at once. Awakening your divine power means learning to hold duality, strength and tenderness, grief and gratitude, silence and voice. It's not about choosing one over the other. It's about weaving all parts of you into wholeness. That is where your true power lives, in integration. You'll begin to notice your intuition sharpening. The inner voice that once whispered now speaks with clarity. You no longer ask others for permission to trust your own knowing. You begin to listen to the signs, to the feelings, to the energy. And the more you listen, the more guidance you receive. Life begins to feel less like a struggle and more like a conversation, a dance, a co-creation with something bigger than you, yet also within you. There's no need to rush this process. Your awakening is unfolding in divine time. Don't compare your path to anyone else's. You are not late. You are not behind. You are arriving exactly when you are meant to. Let your journey be sacred. Let it be yours. And remember, the more you honor your truth, the more your path lights up ahead of you. Every time you say yes to your soul, a door opens. Even if you can't see it yet, trust that it's there. Your divine power is not just meant for the quiet moments of meditation or reflection. It's meant to be lived, breathed, and expressed in the real world. In your relationships, your work, your choices. Every interaction is a chance to anchor your truth, to stand in your worth, to radiate love without losing your boundaries. This isn't about becoming spiritual. It's about becoming real. The most divine version of you is also the most authentic version. It's time to ask yourself the questions you've been avoiding. What parts of yourself have you abandoned to feel accepted? What truths have you silenced to keep the peace? What dreams have you buried because they felt too big or too wild? Those buried parts are not lost. They are waiting. And now is the time to retrieve them, to remember that you were never too much. You were simply surrounded by people or environments too small to hold your bigness. NTHE world needs your light, exactly as it is, not filtered, not watered down, but raw, radiant, and real. You are not here to fit in, you are here to shine. And when you embrace that, something shifts. You stop looking for validation, and start creating it from within. You stop settling and start choosing. You stop hiding and start living. Not perfectly, but powerfully. This is your sacred becoming. Let it be messy. Let it be beautiful. Let it be yours. There is no roadmap, because you are the path. You are the bridge between the seen and the unseen, between the human and the divine. And as you walk this path, you light the way for others too. There will come a point in your awakening when you stop searching for signs and begin becoming one. You realize that the confirmation you've been chasing has always lived inside of you. You no longer wait for proof, because your inner knowing becomes stronger than external validation. This is when everything begins to shift. The energy around you changes. People begin to treat you differently, not because you've changed who you are, but because you've remembered who you've always been. NTHE divine power within you does not ask for permission. It doesn't negotiate with self-doubt or seek approval to exist. It simply is. And the moment you recognize it, you begin to take up space, not out of arrogance, but out of alignment. You start speaking with intention, moving with purpose, and loving yourself with a kind of reverence that no longer allows you to abandon yourself for temporary comfort. This isn't a performance, it's a return to your essence. There is a sacred responsibility that comes with awakening. Once your eyes open, you can no longer pretend not to see. You become aware of the energy you bring into every room, the words you choose, the boundaries you uphold. You begin to recognize that your presence is a force, that your healing affects generations forward and backward, that your very being is a portal of light in a world often dimmed by unconsciousness. You stop playing small, not because it's easy, but because your soul refuses to shrink anymore. And yes, there will be challenges. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because transformation demands release. Your old self will resist the rise of your new self. Comfort will tempt you to turn back, but you must remember that the discomfort is temporary and the growth is eternal. You are not here to be unchanged. You are here to evolve, to expand, to rise into the fullness of your divine design. And as your power awakens, you begin to detach from the noise of the world. You no longer feel the need to keep up with the pace of chaos. You move slower, but with more clarity. You speak less, but with more impact. You understand that not every battle requires your presence, and not every voice deserves your response. This is not indifference, it's wisdom. The more you awaken, the more you realize that your energy is sacred, and not everyone is meant to have access to it. You'll begin to feel more in tune with your body, your environment, and the energies around you. Your sensitivity will increase, not as a weakness, but as a superpower. You'll notice what feels light and what feels heavy. You'll sense when something aligns and when something disrupts your peace. And instead of questioning your instincts, you'll honor them, because your intuition is the voice of the divine within you, guiding you not away from challenges, but into alignment with your higher path. This is a time of unlearning just as much as it is a time of remembering. You must unlearn the stories that taught you to fear your own power. You must unlearn the programming that said your value depended on productivity, appearance, or acceptance. You must unlearn the illusion that love must be earned, and instead remember that love is what you are, that your existence itself is evidence of divine favor. NTHE deeper you go, the more you'll understand that awakening is not about perfection, it's about presence. It's about showing up to each moment with truth, with openness, with courage. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to say yes to what your soul is asking of you right now. That yes will lead you. That yes will open doors. That yes will make you magnetic to the things that belong in your frequency. you'll notice your definitions of success and happiness begin to evolve. What once excited you may now feel empty. What once satisfied you may now feel shallow. This is not regression, this is refinement. As your soul expands, so do your standards. And that means letting go of things, people, or goals that no longer align. It's not easy, it's sacred. Because what you release with intention makes space for what is truly meant for you. You're not meant to resonate with everyone, and that is okay. As you awaken, your energy will naturally attract those who are aligned and repel those who are not. Do not take this personally. Your light will trigger those who are not ready to see their own. Your clarity will discomfort those committed to confusion, but you are not here to shrink to make others comfortable. You're here to be a mirror, a message, a movement. Let the shedding continue. Let the unraveling unfold. Because with each layer that falls away, you are becoming more of who you were always meant to be. This is not the end. It's the beginning. A sacred initiation into a life lived with soul, intention, and divine alignment. A life where you are no longer ruled by fear, but led by love. A life where you stop surviving and start thriving. Not because life is perfect, but because you are finally in harmony with your truth. NTHE, divine power within you is not a destination. It is a frequency, a way of being. And when you embody it, you begin to move differently through the world. You start choosing peace over drama, faith over doubt, and intuition over noise. You no longer need to prove your worth, you walk in it. You no longer need to chase. What's meant for you flows to you, drawn by the resonance of your awakened soul. Now when that happens, you begin to see signs everywhere. Not because the signs weren't there before, but because you finally opened your eyes to see. The universe speaks in patterns, symbols, feelings. And now, you're tuned in. Every moment becomes a message. Every encounter, a reflection. Every silence, a sacred pause. You're no longer just living, you're listening. You're no longer just doing, you're being. And in that being, you find everything you are looking for. Awakening your divine power is the greatest act of love you can offer yourself and the world. It is the moment you decide to live fully, fearlessly, and truthfully. And from that place, miracles are not just possible, they become your new normal. Because when you align with the divine within, life aligns with you. There comes a point in your journey when you stop chasing and start creating, not from force, but from flow, not from need, but from knowing. This is what happens when your divine power fully awakens. You begin to co-create with life, rather than just react to it. You are no longer waiting to be chosen. You are the one choosing your path, your frequency, your truth. This is the space where your inner world shapes your outer reality, where intention becomes manifestation and clarity becomes power. You stop needing the outside world to mirror back your worth because you have found it within. That doesn't mean you become closed off or hardened. On the contrary, you become softer in the right ways and stronger in the necessary ones. You allow yourself to be seen not through masks or personas, but through authenticity. And from this authenticity, everything flows. You don't force love. You don't chase dreams. You don't manipulate outcomes. You trust, align, and receive. NTHE divine within you doesn't shout. It doesn't beg to be heard. It waits with infinite patience until you are ready to listen. And when you do, you realize it was never outside of you. It was always the quiet, consistent presence beneath all the noise. The voice that nudged you when something felt off. The whisper that said, "This isn't who you are," when you tried to conform. The ache in your soul when you abandoned your own truth. That presence is now louder, clearer, and more rooted than ever. You begin to live with deeper purpose, not always dramatic or loud, but steady and unwavering. You honor your time and energy. You create sacred boundaries, not to push others away, but to honor the space you've spent so long trying to reclaim. You begin to protect your peace, not out of fear, but out of reverence. Because peace is the soil where your divine power thrives, and anything that disrupts it without purpose is no longer given access. And every moment becomes an opportunity to return to yourself. Even when you get pulled into distraction or old habits, you notice it sooner, you forgive faster, you recalibrate quicker. Why? Because your self-awareness has become a compass. You no longer fear getting lost, because you trust your ability to find your way back. And that trust in yourself, that unshakable inner stability, is the foundation of your awakening. You also begin to see others differently. Where you once saw conflict, you now see projections. Where you once felt threatened, you now feel compassion. You understand that most people are simply playing out their own unconscious patterns, and that your response is your responsibility. This doesn't make you passive. It makes you powerful, because now you no longer give your energy away to reactions. You choose your response with clarity and intention. Your divine power brings with it an emotional intelligence that cannot be faked. You become less reactive and more reflective. You hold space without absorbing chaos. You observe without judgment. You speak without needing to dominate. And yet, your presence carries a weight, a groundedness, a depth that speaks even when you are silent. That is the power of one who has met themselves in the dark and chosen to return with light. There is a sacred solitude that comes with awakening. You may find yourself drawn to quiet, to stillness, to distance. Not because you're avoiding the world, but because you're finally hearing yourself. In those spaces of solitude, your intuition strengthens. You begin to receive guidance that doesn't come from logic, but from soul. And even when it doesn't make sense to others, you follow it because you trust the frequency it carries. This journey also reveals to you how much you've outgrown. The places, the people, the identities that once felt like home now feel like echoes. You may feel grief, nostalgia, or fear as you release them. That's okay. Honor the endings, but don't resist them. You are not betraying the past. You are making space for the future. And in doing so, you honor both. You are evolving, and your energy is evolving with you. And as you shift, you begin to attract differently. What once excited you may now exhaust you. What once felt safe may now feel limiting. This is not confusion, it's clarity. You are no longer aligned with what was built on your former frequency. Let it fall away. Trust that what is meant for your highest self will arrive, not through struggle, but through resonance. And when it does, it won't feel like effort. It will feel like home. You may also notice that your creativity begins to awaken alongside your power. Not just artistic creativity, but the creativity of living. You start solving problems differently, seeing possibilities where you once saw limitations. You begin to express your truth through how you move, love, speak, and build. Life becomes your canvas, and your soul becomes the artist. This is not performance. It's purpose in motion. With each step into your divine power, your sense of identity becomes less about labels and more about essence. You stop defining yourself by roles, achievements, or external measures. Instead, you begin to anchor into your being. Your energy becomes your signature. Your presence becomes your message. And the more you live from that place, the more you realize how little you need to do to be powerful. You just need to be present, aligned, awake. There is no finish line in awakening, no final destination, It's a continuous unfolding, a lifelong dance between forgetting and remembering. But every time you return to yourself, you deepen, you refine, you expand. And eventually that return becomes more natural than the forgetting. You begin to live in a state of remembrance, a quiet, empowered awareness that this moment is sacred, and so are you. More you surrender to this path, the more you experience grace. Grace not as reward, but as natural consequence. The grace of knowing who you are. The grace of releasing what no longer fits. The grace of walking forward without needing to control every detail. Grace is what carries you when effort no longer serves. It is the soft power of the awakened soul. And once you begin to embody it, life begins to meet you there. And as you deepen into your divine power, you'll find yourself no longer negotiating with fear. Fear may still whisper, but it no longer leads. It becomes something you notice, not something you obey. You start making decisions based on trust, not trauma. On expansion, not protection. You learn to distinguish between the voice of your conditioning and the voice of your soul. And in doing so, you liberate yourself from the patterns that once kept you caged. There's a shift in how you experience time. You no longer feel ruled by urgency. You don't live in the anxiety of the next moment or the residue of the last one. You begin to root into the present, not as a temporary pause, but as your power source. In presence you discover peace. In presence you find clarity. And from that clarity you create a life that is not rushed, but intentional. Each moment becomes a choice, and each choice becomes an act of alignment. An awakening doesn't mean you never feel pain again. It means you no longer run from it. You meet your wounds with love instead of resistance. You allow grief to teach you, anger to move through you, and sadness to be held without shame. You become the safe space you've always longed for. And in that space you heal. You rise. You evolve not by escaping your humanity, but by embracing it with divinity. More you awaken, the more compassion you develop, not only for others, but for yourself. You stop demanding perfection. You stop measuring your worth by your output. You begin to see yourself as you are, sacred, messy, growing, glowing. You give yourself permission to rest, to breathe, to be. And in those moments of stillness, you find strength you didn't know existed. Not the strength of force, but the strength of grace. There will be moments when the world feels too loud, too heavy, too chaotic. When that happens, remember this: your divine power is not here to fight the storm. It is here to anchor you in the eye of it. You are not here to control everything. You are here to be the calm within it all. To remind yourself and others that peace is not something you wait for. It's something you create, moment by moment from within. You start aligning with your values, not the ones given to you by culture, family, or tradition, but the ones etched into your soul. You start asking questions like, what matters most to me now? What makes me feel alive? What am I willing to let go of to protect my peace? These questions aren't distractions from life. They are the very foundation of it. They bring you back to yourself when you begin to drift, and you will drift. Because we are human. But the difference is, now you know how to come back. You know how to return to your breath, to your stillness, to your truth. You know how to sit with discomfort instead of running from it. You know how to listen before reacting, how to feel before responding. These are not small things. These are signs of mastery, of maturity, of a soul choosing presence over pattern. Your boundaries become sacred acts, not walls to keep people out, but agreements to keep you in integrity. You learn to say no without guilt. You say yes with discernment. You stop over-explaining your worth. You realize that not everyone needs to understand your path to respect it. And even if they don't, you continue anyway, because your peace is no longer up for negotiation. You start embodying your truth in how you walk, how you speak, how you love. You no longer separate your inner world from your outer expression. Integrity becomes your standard. You no longer crave attention. You value resonance. You don't need to be the loudest voice in the room. You need only be the clearest. And clarity comes not from effort, but from alignment. From standing rooted in who you are, even when it's not popular or praised. And as you continue awakening, you begin to release the need to prove. You stop hustling for validation. You stop performing for approval. Your worth is no longer conditional. It's embodied. You walk differently. You hold eye contact longer. You don't rush to fill silence. You allow yourself to simply be. And in that being, you offer others permission to do the same. You become a living embodiment of what is possible. This is the medicine the world needs. Not more noise, but more truth. Not more perfection, but more presence. Not more judgment, but more grace. And it begins with you. Your awakening isn't just about your life. It's about the lives you touch, the energy you emit, the spaces you hold. You may never fully see the impact you make, but it is felt. Every time you choose love over fear, every time you show up in truth, you create ripples. You'll begin to feel more supported by life. Even when challenges arise, you no longer feel alone in them. You sense the unseen forces guiding you. The synchronicities become clearer, the messages louder. You start seeing your reflections in nature, in music, in conversations with strangers. Life begins to speak your language because you've tuned into its frequency. You are no longer separate. You are part of it. Interconnected. Infinite. There's an intimacy that develops between you and the universe. A trust. A knowing. You don't need all the answers to move forward. You don't need certainty to take the next step. You simply need to stay open. Receptive. Awake. You begin to follow the subtle pull of joy, curiosity, peace. These are your soul's breadcrumbs. Follow them. They will lead you to places logic could never reach. NTHE, divine power within you, is not a fire that burns you. It is a fire that fuels you. It warms your spirit, illuminates your path. It does not demand, it invites. And the more you accept the invitation, the more alive you feel, the more connected, the more whole. Because wholeness isn't about having it all together. It's about embracing all of you, especially the parts you were once taught to hide. You stop trying to be the light and start realizing you already are. You don't need to do more, be more, or fix more to earn love, peace, or joy. You simply need to return to yourself. Again and again, gently, patiently, compassionately. And in that return, your light becomes brighter, not because you forced it, but because you finally stopped dimming it. There is a sacred beauty in realizing you are not who you used to be, not because you've changed for others, but because you've evolved for yourself. Your inner world has shifted, your perspective expanded, your values refined. You begin to see that the things that once consumed you no longer hold the same weight. What once triggered you now teaches you. What once hurt you now grows you. You've stepped into a higher level of consciousness, not as a trend, but as a necessity. Your priorities realign. Your energy becomes more focused. You stop entertaining distractions. You stop investing in chaos. You no longer seek meaning in places that drain your soul. Instead, you cultivate environments that nourish your growth, conversations that elevate, spaces that breathe with intention, connections that are mutual, supportive, and deeply felt. You begin to attract not based on old wounds, but on healed vibrations. And those who arrive now match the level of love you've finally given to yourself. You feel the freedom of no longer needing to be understood. When you awaken, you release the need to explain your evolution. You realize that some will not resonate with the new frequency you carry. And that's okay. Not everyone is meant to walk with you. Some people were only aligned with your unhealed version. As you rise, the energy shifts, and so does your circle. What's important is that you no longer abandon yourself to hold on to what's already energetically expired. You become more intentional with your presence. You stop showing up from obligation and start showing up from alignment. You understand that your presence is a gift, and you give it where it can be received, not just where it's expected. This isn't selfishness, it's self-respect. The days of proving your worth are over. You no longer hustle for connection. You simply radiate, and what's aligned will find you. What's not will naturally fall away. Your relationship with time transforms. You realize that slowing down isn't falling behind, it's honoring your rhythm. You begin to trust the pauses, the gaps, the quiet seasons. You no longer rush to fill the silence. You rest in it. You listen to what it's trying to tell you. You understand that growth isn't always loud. Sometimes it's still, subtle, sacred. The most profound transformation often happens beneath the surface, invisible to the world, but undeniable within. And then something powerful happens. You begin to feel whole without needing anything to complete you. You no longer chase fulfillment through achievement, validation, or possession. You realize that wholeness isn't something you find, it's something you remember. It's always been inside of you, waiting to be chosen. And now, you choose it. Not because life is perfect, but because you finally see that you don't need to be fixed. You were never broken. You were simply buried. And buried under expectations, fears, projections, and old stories. But now, the excavation has begun. You've dug deep, pulled out the roots, cleared the space. And in that space, your divine self rises. It's not loud, it's not flashy, but it's real. And in its presence, everything begins to align, not because you control it, but because you've become magnetic to truth. You notice it in the way your breath deepens, in the way your body softens, in the way your heart opens again, not out of desperation, but out of readiness. You are no longer afraid to love deeply, because you no longer fear losing yourself. You love with boundaries. You love with self-awareness. You love with a fullness that doesn't seek to be completed, but to be mirrored. And when love meets you there, it's a sacred union, not of halves, but of whole souls. You also begin to honor your shadow. Awakening isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming integrated. You learn to sit with the parts of you that once scared you, the anger, the sadness, the shame. You no longer suppress them. You listen to them. You ask what they need. You begin to alchemize them into strength, creativity, and wisdom. This is emotional sovereignty. This is inner mastery. And it brings you peace that no one can take from you. There's a quiet power in knowing yourself so deeply that nothing outside of you can shake your foundation. You may still feel pain, but you no longer personalize it. You may still face setbacks, but you no longer spiral into self-doubt. You understand that everything is energy, that every experience is feedback, that every moment is an opportunity to come back to your center. And from that center, you respond, not react, with love. Your voice becomes clearer. You no longer filter your truth through fear of judgment. You speak not to be liked, but to be real. You share from a place of grounded vulnerability. And that truth, Your embodied, unfiltered truth creates space for others to do the same. You don't just talk about authenticity, you embody it. And in doing so, you create ripple effects of permission, power, and possibility. Awakening your divine power doesn't mean you have all the answers. It means you're finally okay not knowing. You release the obsession with certainty. You embrace the unknown as part of the path. You begin to dance with life, to trust its timing, to move with its flow. You see the divine not only in the mountaintop moments, but also in the mundane. The breath, the silence. The ordinary now feels holy because your awareness makes it so. This is your return to simplicity, to presence, to truth, and most importantly, to yourself. You are no longer chasing a version of you in the future. You are honoring who you are now. You no longer see your journey as linear. It's circular, spiral, sacred. Each loop brings you closer to deeper self-knowing, deeper compassion, deeper freedom. You aren't starting over, you're starting deeper. And in this depth, you become rooted, steady, unshakable. You are no longer moved by trends, approval, or noise. You move with your own rhythm. You speak your own language. You create your own reality. And in that reality, there is peace. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. And that inner change reflects outward in every step, every breath, every choice. And as you continue to embody your divine power, you realize that awakening is not a single moment. It is a way of life, a commitment, a sacred agreement between you and your soul to show up every day with presence, truth, and courage. There is no endpoint, no ultimate destination. Instead, there is a continuous unfolding, a deepening spiral inward, and with every turn, you remember more of who you truly are. You'll find that your joy becomes simpler. It's no longer tied to outcomes or external highs. It begins to arise from the small things, the sun on your skin, a kind word, the quiet of early morning, the way your breath moves through your body. These moments, once overlooked, now feel divine. You no longer need more to feel full. You've discovered that presence itself is the portal to everything you once sought outside. You carry yourself differently now. Your posture isn't forced, it's rooted. Your boundaries aren't rigid, they're clear. Your energy doesn't reach outward to be accepted, it radiates inward because it already is. You're no longer available for patterns that drain your light. You no longer confuse chaos for passion or struggle for worth. You know now that peace is powerful, that stillness is strength, that your softness is not weakness, it is wisdom. When you walk into a room, you carry a presence. It's not about being seen, it's about being felt. Those who are ready will recognize it, not by your words, but by your energy. Because divine power is not about performance, it's about alignment. The more aligned you are with your soul, the less effort you need to be magnetic. You become the embodiment of your truth, and that embodiment silently teaches others how to come home to themselves. You've also developed discernment. You no longer tolerate anything that dishonors your frequency. You no longer explain your boundaries to those who benefit from crossing them. You no longer entertain what distracts you from your inner peace. This isn't a loss, it's a clearing. The more you clear, the more space you make. And what you're making space for now is not just people or things, it's your next level of self. With that space, new downloads begin to emerge, new visions, new dreams, new clarity. Your intuition grows sharper. You don't just trust it, you follow it, you act on it, you let it lead, even when the path ahead is foggy. Because by now you've learned that your soul doesn't need proof to move, it just needs permission. And you've finally given yourself that. You look back now and you don't feel regret, you feel reverence. Reverence for every step, every breakdown, every rise. You bless the versions of yourself that kept going, that made choices from survival, that loved with an open heart, even when it got broken. You hold no bitterness for the past, only wisdom, and from that wisdom, you create the future, not based on fear, but on freedom. You no longer strive to fix yourself, you commit to loving yourself. And in that love, transformation happens naturally. You begin to glow differently, not because you've reached perfection, but because you've surrendered to truth. Your beauty is no longer curated, it is remembered. Your worth is no longer proved, it is embodied. You don't reach for power, you walk in it. And everything becomes ceremony now. The way you wake up, the way you speak, the way you treat your body, the way you relate to others, you infuse sacredness into the ordinary. Because you know that the divine is not separate from the human, it is expressed through it. You are no longer waiting for miracles. You are the miracle, living, breathing, awakening in real time. You understand now that power is not about control, it's about coherence. The more in harmony you are with yourself, the more impact you create in the world. Not from force, but from flow. Not from ego, but from essence. This is what divine power looks like: grounded, soft, certain, expansive, rooted in love, moving with clarity, and aligned with something greater than logic, aligned with soul. NTHE world begins to reflect this transformation. New opportunities emerge. Aligned connections find you. Synchronicities increase. But none of this surprises you anymore, because you know the outer is simply echoing the inner. You've shifted your inner world, and now the universe is responding. This is how it works. You don't chase. You attract by being who you really are. You are no longer afraid of being seen. But more importantly, you are no longer afraid of seeing yourself. All of yourself. The shadows, the brilliance, the places you're still healing and the places you've already bloomed. You don't need to choose between light and dark. You hold both. You integrate both. And from that integration, you rise. Whole, free, awake. You are now the guide you were always looking for, the love you always longed for, the voice you once silenced, the light you once doubted. You've returned, fully, completely, authentically, and nothing, not fear, not doubt, not even time, can take that from you. Because it lives inside you now, always has, always will. NSO. Take a deep breath. Let your heart expand. And step forward, not into someone new, but into the you that has always been waiting. The you who remembers, the you who knows. The you who leads with love, speaks with clarity, and lives with reverence. This is your awakening, and it's only just begun.